Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, you are currently listening to the new way on Steampunk Radio. That's Steam with two E's. Most listeners may find Steampunk Radio via the TuneIn app on their device or on the TuneIn website. I'm Karen, standing in as your host for your regular show host, Dr. Lenny Time. It is Thursday, July 20, no, July 18th, although it could be July 28th, depending on what time frame or time zone I'm in. Either way, today's show is going to center around the driving force behind finding our reality. Michelle with us. Michelle is a member of our cast of characters and ornery clubhouse chat room here in the Discord server. And Michelle does a lot of work, has her own YouTube channel, and has done a lot of search for reality. And so, welcome, Michelle. You're on the new way.
Hello, Karen. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. I woke up very late this morning, so I feel like I'm not my. I feel like I'm an illusion.
Usually that's when I wake up this early and I turn on this show. I like to wake up to it and then a good 15, 20 minutes into it, I'm awake and alert. It's a good way to start the day. When I'm up this early, it's great.
Yes, it is. I keep saying I have to learn to drink coffee. Never liked the taste, but it can't help to have a little something to, perk you up. Uh, Especially when you get up that early. But so I've checked out your YouTube channel, which is super cool. You've got a lot
Thank
of
you.
videos. What? Sorry about my voice here. Isn't that lovely for the listeners? All right. Um, what made you start a YouTube channel? What drove you to that?
It actually took a very long time for me to step into doing a YouTube channel. Uh, these strange anomalies began to happen, and it was back in 2001. And then I went to the doctor, and they decided it was night terrors, and said, "Here, take this pill, and make them go away." Well, it really did not. It helped dull things down where I was able to get up and go to work and do what I needed to do because I had two children to take care of. But it slowed the process. Well, in 2012, I got a huge wake up, which a lot of people are going through. But what took me so long is I didn't want to lead people the wrong way. I didn't want to be a leader. And I had learned enough through the things that I was seeing and the things that I was going through and the synchronicities that other people were going through and what everybody had to offer to each other, that we are sovereign and that we are all equals. And for people to act like they're higher, or more valuable than another person was a deception in the perception. So the channel started and still is about sharing what you know so we can all listen and grow. So the things that I started off with, it's a mix of my own personal experiences and that have been validated through other people and their testimonies, which like blows your socks off because you feel like you're alone in this. You see a change, and the first ones I noticed were biblical, and you kind of get shook, like to your core, And you're like, who can I tell about this? Because everybody else is acting like everything is normal. But to me, it wasn't normal. So to find other people going through it is, it's wonderful. If I could have found somebody in 2012 that was talking about these things, oh my goodness, but what was it, 2015 or 2016, that around those couple years, that others started talking, about these very things that I had been going through in 2012. So I got pretty excited about that, but I really wasn't ready at that time to talk about it yet. I needed to learn more, understand more, and then once, and I'm very camera shy and not very good with public speaking, so I had a couple extra hurdles to overcome. So now that I've been doing this for a little over a year, I've gotten a little more comfortable. Still a little nervous, still a little camera shy, but I'm pushing my way through that because the message is too important to let everybody know how wonderful that everybody is.
You say a lot of interesting things. I don't know where to begin. What I have to say that I think is very impressive is that you allowed yourself to be vulnerable and share despite your hesitations with camera or public speaking. And in doing that, it's interesting because a lot of us protect by just not saying anything, but by opening yourself, being vulnerable, it looks like you actually found others that were, through sharing their stories with you, became validating and normalizing. And that's a really good feedback to get when you are vulnerable and open yourself up. The first thing that struck a chord with me was about your 2012, saying that a lot of people were getting wake-up calls. I myself got one in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about that year, 2012?
Um, I truly feel like actually 2001, you probably got called the same time I did. But then the call went out super strong, like an energy wave blast that, we were kind of being coddled from 2001 until 2012. And then it was like, okay, it's been 11 years. Get off your butt. We're not, the gloves are off. It's time to get moving because we all have a calling on our life to fulfill. And no one person has a greater calling than anybody else. They're all just as important, and they have us. Like some people will have mastery, like Lenny is very good with his scientific knowledge. Others will be good with gematria. Others will be good, and have it down about our Merkaba field. Just all these different areas, dreams and visions, speaking in foreign languages. It's like we all have a different part, but each are just as important, and each are necessary for everybody. Now we still have choice. We have the choice to participate or not. We have the choice on whether information resonates with you or not. And if you see like hierarchy starting to get built up around you, then maybe it's time to leave the party. I'm very clear on my channel that I do not want followers. I want leaders. And everybody is a leader. everybody, you have to lead your own life. And, your experiences are your own and they're precious. And one of your experiences could take the fear out of somebody else that I don't know how you felt in 2012, but when all this was going on and nobody was talking about it, it was pretty lonely and pretty scary when you don't understand it. So as
Yes.
time goes on, things become more clear for us. And until I understood the language that was being spoken to me and how to discern it and these different things being unlocked, I didn't want to talk about things that I didn't know enough about. I still don't know enough about anything or everything. I just appreciate listening to other people and I learn from them. I learn from other people. Plus, I have my own experiences that guide me. So, yeah, 2012, there's a lot of us that woke up in 2012. But I hear the majority of people talk about 2015 or 16. Maybe that's just for the Mandela effect. I'm not sure, but I was seeing changes before it was even named the Mandela effect. How about you?
Well, I think what you said, basically, time offers clarity. At the time, I would not have been able to articulate it or like get my finger on it. But in 2012 was significant for me because I simply you had high blood pressure at like a routine thing that required extra blood work to look into it. And unbeknownst to me, I had this crazy ass severe anemia. And the level, and I don't even remember, is it the hemoglobin or there's something, whatever it is. It was so low that my doctor, who I worked with on a palliative care team in the hospital, trust her implicitly, she was looking at me and just like, "You're working full time?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "You're so anemic." I go, I'm like, "What do I need to do? You take a couple iron tabs?"
Right, right. No, you probably needed blood.
She was like, "No." She's like, "You're gonna need to take time off work and you need iron infusions."
Yeah.
And I literally had to go to an infusion lab where chemo patients get infused, and I had to have several treatments of iron being infused into my body. And I had no idea. And she was just floored. She goes, "How are you working full time?" I said, "Well, just pretty much like I roll out of bed, put my hair in a ponytail, and at lunch I sit in a car and I nap."
Right,
I had
right.
no idea that this was strange. And then I go home, and pretty much when I get home at 6 or 6:30, I basically fall asleep at about 7. And she was just like, "Karen, Karen, Karen, a couple iron tabs ain't gonna do it." So my body was, and they still don't know what, like, all the workup in the world. Like, I went to hematologist. There's still no explanation of why my like I was so anemic. And apparently there's like over 400 types of anemia. Anemia actually used to cause people to die. I minimized it because it's like, okay, anemia, and you pop a couple iron tabs, right? Like, that's it. It's just like, no, like, anemia used to kill people. She's just like, "You need to take time off work." And so that's kind of when that started. But similar to your timeline, Michelle, it was things started really ramping up in terms of searching for information for me in 2014. Definitely it accelerated in 15 and 16 and so on. But now I look back at that 2012. I can remember being at my cousin's wedding in New York City, and I'm like, "What the hell is wrong with me? I can't even get up." like half the stairway up from the subway. I was huffing and puffing at the mid landing, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. But my body didn't have enough oxygen in the blood. I wasn't getting oxygenation, and so I had labored breathing. I didn't understand it at the time, but time does offer clarity. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that, yeah, I've been all over the smorgasbord. I agree with you. Everyone has a niche. Um, I wanted to ask you, Michelle, what maybe you're not necessarily, if you feel like you have a niche, I would love for you to share us what you think your niche is, but more so, what topics or what research are you passionate about? You know, what are your interests basically?
I want the truth. I seek the truth, and that's basically it. I want to know what's going on, who we truly are, what we truly are, uh, the truth. And I want to, you were talking medical. Well, in 2012, they just fitted me for a scooter chair. I had lost the use of my right leg and my left arm because I got into a car accident. I was stopped at a stop sign, and a guy came up. I think he was going 55, 60 mile an hour because he shoved my. It was a full size pickup truck with a receiver hitch on it to pull the trailer. So those are solid steel. And he shoved us straight into the intersection. We almost got hit by another car that was coming through. That's why I was stopped. And I had drawn the short straw, so I had a couple friends with me, and they were all loose and happy, and I was designated driver. Well, I stiffened up, which I ended up having to have neck surgery, and I needed back surgery, but it was too dangerous to have it because they have to go in through the front to work on your back, which is interesting. But that's how our spine works. So they would have had to take everything out of my tummy area, my digestive system, and then put it out of my body into like a little metal pan next to me while they worked on my back to try to fix it. And there's the life living through that procedure. The odds weren't high enough to validate the pain. I was like, I'll just deal with the pain. I've got little children to take care of. I can't I can't be doing this. So, anyways, I was heading into a scooter chair. I was on a cane and I weighed over 200 pounds because of the lack of mobility. Well, I never got into the scooter chair. I no longer walk with the cane, and now I'm below weight. But I think the below weight is from the sudden trauma that I just went through. But I'm doing okay. The Did you notice any kind of health improvements since 2012, or have your health went just deteriorated with this? I mean, did you have this anemic issue before, or?
No, never, and it was out of the blue. It got resolved. Um, it got
Wonderful.
resolved, but the challenge now is that ever since then, the hypertension has not resolved. And long story short, I am like literally a genetic masterpiece for heart disease on both sides of my family.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, and it is what it is. That's why our reoccurring guest Bridget, all of her stuff on like nutrition. Because if I had my druthers, I would even like to take heart medication. I would love everything to be
Hmm.
via all natural. But so it's had its up and downs. I've had times that despite taking the medication, I was in a hypertensive crisis where, when your blood pressure is above 200, and the
Oh
bottom
my.
number is, yeah, and the bottom number is at or around 100. I mean, you're looking at risk of stroke. My dad had a stroke. I have memories of finding, I was the one that found him, and like he wasn't able to move, I'm like, what's wrong with you? And like that's not good. So that's a little scary. And so, a couple times I've had to like go in and just get low pressure medication, just IV in the emergency room. They always ask me to stay for observations, but I always leave
I don't
because
like the hospital either. Don't feel bad. I just had a flip on that. See, I've had high blood pressure since the accident, and now I have low blood pressure. So they're, and I just, like I said, seen the doctor. I just seen him yesterday, and when I went there a month ago, he cut the amount in half, and then now he's having me take half of that half. So I'm having to cut the pill in half because my blood pressure is still too low. Which he actually said something really interesting. Not this time, but the last time I went in, and he said that it appears that my body's doing a reset. I'm like, a reset? So, and I'm coming off of all the pharmaceuticals. Slowly but surely, and in a safe manner, they're going away. So,
that.
and I don't want to take these things. I feel like it's a ball and chain we have to drag around with us. And I
Yeah.
wanted to mention that Lenny and I both lost a substantial, not Lenny, I'm sorry, Willie and I both lost a substantial amount of weight at the same time. It was like, I mean, at the same time. It was like 50 pounds each, at least, that we both lost. And I was like, that's crazy. It was within a few months. And I was uh, over 200 pounds when I was getting ready to go into that scooter chair. And now I'm in the 130s.
Wow. And
Yeah,
I
that's
would
why I
have
said
just
it's a
encouraged,
reset.
yeah, it would have just encouraged more sedentary, like more of the same. Like, I mean, it would have increased mobility, and that's the catch 22 with those types of things. Um, but wow, that's incredible. And then I mean, somehow being on the same energy wavelength with Willie, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Um, well, either way, so I can see you're kind of passionate about lots of different topics. I mean, just scrolling through the rows and rows of videos that you've put out there, I mean, you have everything from gematria, Illuminati, third eye opening, ascension, JFK. I love this one, Game of Life.
Yes.
Oh, and
The
you have
game
a
of life.
great one about cats rule the world.
Cats rule the world. Oh yes, yes. My dad made that.
Your
That's their
dad?
cat. That's their cat. Yes. It's
Well, I have to laugh.
hilarious. I had to share it with you guys, and I asked him, and he of course gave me full permission. So, yeah,
Oh, well, I
yes,
appreciate Bridget two times ago told us about sproutpeople.org. I checked it out, and it was really cool because she reports that sprouts are very dense in nutrition, and you can grow sprouts right in your home. And this place, sproutspeople.org, they give you like all the training, the tools. It's like really a cool site. So I'm glad she mentioned it. But I could not stop laughing when I was looking at the things that they offered. One of which was a cat uh, tray, because they found that when they were sprouting, the cat would want to overtake the trays and sit in the trays that are supposed to be sprouting. So they had to create their own
Well, think
tray
about it
that
from the
doesn't
cat's
grow berries.
perspective.
That's
You
so
know,
sad.
you clean their litter box, you feed them, you groom them, you give them a roof over their head, they pay no bills, they're treated like royalty. I think they pretty much rule the world. I really do.
That, that's hilarious. Well, and I couldn't help but connect when I saw Cats Rule the World, and I was thinking back to that Sprout website, and I was like, yeah, they really do. For the sprouts to grow, these people had to create a special mock sprouting tray just for the cats. It's so cute.
God,
But
I love them.
is there one video that you that stands out for you as particularly, I don't want to use the word successful because it's relative, and I'm like you, it's not about followers. I always say vanity metrics are out, and concentrating on number of followers, number of viewers, number, it like that, what you want is to attract people that are serious, and it's all about engagement. And like you said, it's not about followers, it's like you want leaders.
Right.
um I would rather have, 400 people following me that are, legitimately searching for reality, than have, 40,000 or 400,000 so that I could be classified as a social media influencer. I mean, okay, that 400,000, that could be that's a very vapid number. I mean, are all those people legitimately, connected to the same interest and passion that you're putting out there? And I really admire you for having that attitude, because I think 40 or 400 people with the same driven passion and like goal, even if everyone's unique and has their own niche, I think there's a lot more that can be done together in a group of 40 that's motivated than, a group of 450,000 where, oh, you're an influencer, you passed the 100,000 mark, you're official an influencer, and then all of a sudden they're like, push my thing, push my thing. And that's really all about getting people to follow me, like follow what I say. If I push this product, then, I mean, that's just more of the same. And that's going back into the illusion.
Right. We're coming out of that duality, hierarchy. We're starting to see the value in ourselves and the value in others as equals. And it makes the world of difference. I don't want people emailing me asking me to answer the questions for them. I can help you, and I would for the first few steps. But at some point, it's more of a lift you up onto your feet and get you walking your path, your own path. I don't want you to walk my path. My path is my path. Your path is your path. So I do slip in a lot of content about, some signs that you're really not like thinking for yourself, and that you may have fallen into the hands of like a cult or a cultish type of relationship with people where that could be dangerous for you, because now you're not thinking for yourself. You've given your power over to somebody else to make your decisions. And that's not what I'm about. I want people
Right.
to make their own decisions and have their own power. If you want to do it, don't feel like you're forced to do something. Do it with a cheerful heart, or don't do it at all. And if something I say doesn't resonate, because there are so many different topics, um, skip it. Or when I bring people on, they may resonate with somebody more closely than I do. Then they have the opportunity to go and check out their channel.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Sometimes, gosh, you're saying so much great things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, are you my kindred spirit? Let's go back to signs you're not thinking for yourself, which is very synchronous being that I was recently contacted by a friend with dilemma, and I took some time to respond because I'm not going to say this, it sounds like you want to do this, or it's better to say, like, the answer. I will be here on the sides while you sort this stuff out. No doubt it's complicated, but can you go into a little bit about what are signs that you're not thinking for yourself?
Well, when you're constantly waiting with bated breath for somebody to post a video, for example,
Uh,
for their next piece of information, where you could look it up yourself. You can do your own research. You can go into your own self. And I was going to bring this up earlier. One of the things that I've continuously asked for was to come off of these medications. Now, don't think it's going to happen overnight. We have to be patient with ourselves. Um, it doesn't happen for, I haven't met anybody that said that, it's been like an overnight revelation. In the very beginning, though, when it first happens, you think you've got, wow, all this information, because you do. You just like opened yourself up and you got plenty of revelations, but you got to understand them. And how do they apply to your life? What do you do with them? And that is only done by the person that it happened to. Other people can't guide you into what just flowed through you, what information was just given to you, because it wasn't given to them. So when you look at a situation where, okay, like that old cult movie. I put it up again here recently. Every once in a while, I'll throw that one up there. Oh, I'm so sorry if you guys heard that squelch. I throw that up there every once in a while because it does a perfect display of not thinking for yourself and how dangerous that is. Because if you can't make a decision for yourself, and I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you going to do if you can't make a decision? It's dangerous. And if you're following somebody, you're almost worshiping them. You've idolized them. You've put them on a pedestal higher than yourself. The first things we always need to do is clean out our own house. Get all the junk out. Everything that doesn't serve us. Get rid of it. And then realize who we are and make our own decisions and love one another. And if you do not have the capability of making decisions for yourself, and you'll follow anybody's command, so to speak, how is that showing that you love yourself enough to trust your own intuition? And then you fall into trouble, because then you're spying on other people for this person. You're doing things that are ugly and nasty on the behalf of this one person that has put themselves above other people. Instead of them lifting you up and making you a leader and treating you like an equal, they're looking down at you. And you kind of fall into these trappings. And it's really sad because it's so far removed from the truth. I mean, people are beautiful, but they can choose not to show the beauty. They can choose to be ugly. They could be the most gorgeous being on the outside, but that's not what matters. What matters is what's going on in the inside. I hope that
wow.
answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. One of the first steps you talk about, um, locating reality is get the junk out of your house, the decluttering. What is it about clutter and material belongings that, let's say, the Mary Con method don't spark joy. What is it about that that weighs you down or weighs a person down?
The more money you have, the more debt. And I could tell you firsthand that a person's involvement in your life, there's no amount of money anybody could offer to replace them. The person in your life is so much more valuable because you love them dearly, and there's nothing that can replace them. People think that if I have this material item, I'm going to be fulfilled. Then they get that not fulfilled. So then they think it's something else that they need to have, that they buy. There's nothing more satisfying than going out with a best friend and having a good talk over lunch,
Right.
and spending time with your family and being surrounded by people that love you unconditionally, that you love unconditionally, and trust. You've got to, that trust is so important. When somebody tells you something, you've got to be able to trust them at what they're saying. And when somebody lies, of course you forgive them because we've all lied. I mean, none of us are innocent. You know, we're late coming home when we're kids. We come up with pretty good fibs, to tell our folks and, yeah, to try and get out of trouble. But that stuff ruins trust. And so, being honest and authentic, being who you are, if you are the type of person that needs to have constant adoration, be upfront with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, realize that that is something that you have to have, and find out why. Why do I have to have these people adoring me all the time or looking to me for the answers? And then fix it. Because you're the only one, no one can change anybody.
Right.
We're the only ones who can change ourselves.
So, two things are on my mind, but to stay with the cluttering. Um, what's interesting, I found, especially since clearing out my parents' estate, which everything from the year they bought the house in 1959, literally everything had been saved. I almost wanted to scream at my parents when I'm going through an attic that has, mouse droppings and cobwebs, and it's just floor to ceiling, the whole house like just had little pathways.
Hoarders.
And I'm like, 1960s clothes, too small, go to Goodwill. I'm like, you couldn't have done this in 1960? I was like, oh my God, it's 2006. And I am literally losing my sanity going through billions of
Yes.
items.
Why didn't
Oh
they
my,
think about you as they were collecting all that you were going to be the one having to clean up the mess?
I think they thought they were because they saved every Monopoly game, every Shoots and Ladder game, all of that stuff because you will want this for your children someday. Well, fast forward, I don't have any children. And look at my sister's children. Yeah, everything's all like video games today. So that like it was really kind of, but that's where their head was. But here's the thing, I noticed that I have a little bit of what they have. It's just like I have clothes that are too small. I still have stuff. I saved way too much stuff from their estate, and and believe me, I whittled it down. And it's like it's just taking up space. But it's not about wanting these material goods. It's about fear of letting it go, I think. Um, and I don't know. Need to explore that on my own time, but I think that's true for a lot of other people. Or maybe it's just I don't want to go through the arduous task because when you do go through those items, it is very anxiety provoking.
Well, you're allowed to have, excuse me, in California, one yard sale a year. You go get your permit and then have your yard sale. And that's, usually spring cleaning, yard sale. Get rid of what you don't need. Now, my husband likes to hold on to the things that he has. So that's stuff I can't touch. But there are things that are my things that I can. Now, I'm glad I didn't get rid of those two small clothes because they're like brand new. I grew out of them quicker than I had a chance to even really wear them. So they're like brand new and they're blue jeans, which never go out of style. So, I'm in good shape. I don't have to go out and buy new clothes because I shrunk back down
Yeah,
very
there is a
quickly.
yeah, just in case I might need this, or just in case this might come in handy.
Right.
There's a lot of that. But all right. The other thing, you talked about this process of not giving the answer to people. People, come to you for the answer. I wanted to share with you. I came across this document called that there were allegedly. I I don't have proof, but the 11 commandments. Okay, supposedly the 11th commandment was um, hidden. Uh, the guy who did this research found actually uh, Roman Catholic priests that existed in South America, and it was very hard to track down the information and the source for this, but did. The guy who actually wrote the book ended up dead, but his brother still kind of whatever, just pushes his mission to get this information that he worked so hard to uncover and unveil.
Mm-hmm.
And the sixth commandment, and the other thing that they said was that the commandments were actually it wasn't full disclosure. So specifically, the sixth commandment says, "You shall not steal," which, okay, I should not steal this person's goods, but and I'm reading directly from this document, which I'm happy to share with everybody after the show, the file or whatever it says. And okay, and this is what was originally given by God to Moses. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I find the lessons from this interesting. Life's consequences result when you place more value on what another has rather than on what you have. Whatever anyone has in life is precisely what they need at that time. For those things have been given with a specific purpose, one only that they can know. Do not what is not yours, for if you do, another cannot learn what they need. And that includes, do not take away the process that they need to go through. If they're living in the question, and this is something my Reiki practitioner had said when I was trying very hard and I was getting obsessed about unveiling family secrets and things of that nature. And she said, well, we all have family secrets, and then there's secrets in our community and in our country and the world. And she said part of the process is living in the question. And if the answers are meant to come to you, they will come to you. But you can't just snap your finger and get the answers that you want. You've got to learn to live in the question, for that could be part of your growing process. And
That's right.
so I feel like that really connects to what you were saying about if someone comes to you and says, what should I do? You don't want to take away their process from them. You
Yeah.
empower them, right?
You lift them back up. Mm-hmm. You can help
You lift,
them. You help them a few times, but you don't want it to be that every single thing that goes on that they now are continuously coming to you. You don't want to be their guru. You want them to be their own guru.
right, because otherwise you're fostering dependence. And that's not fair to them. in
Right.
in essence, you'd be stealing their independence and their ability to stand on their own.
Yes, we do resonate. We totally
You
resonate because I'm all about sovereignty, freedom,
Yeah,
and not and taking responsibility for your actions. That is a big part of growing up. Is that as we grow up as children, we don't have those responsibilities. I loved being a child. Go out and play, come in, dinner's ready, or mom and dad has got this all sorted out for us. But as we grow up, we take on the responsibilities and then have our families and things like that. Okay, well that's the earthly way of showing us of taking responsibility for our actions and our behaviors and how we treat one another. If you do something and you wrong somebody and you don't apologize, then you're not taking responsibility for your actions. And so that puts you, as, we were talking about the cult leader, they never seem to apologize. They will twist things back onto you. If you have a grievance or something that comes up, they'll twist it and make it, well, it's all about you. You're the one not understanding. You're the one that's not, getting it. And usually they try to gather up followers that will then be their yes men party, and then they'll come after you and attack you because you didn't agree with something that happened that was, that didn't resonate with you. It didn't feel right. You know, it was poorly done and it hurt many people, but they still have their very tight knit group of yes men that they give power and authority to. It's just weird, and that's how cults work. They got their cult leader, and then they've got the ones that have been in the cult for a long time that are pretty much brainwashed, and then they keep the newer members or the recruiting into the cult coming in, and then they start having like a ritualistic based, and then you've got a cult, and so there's no sovereignty in a cult. And even the people that are out being the yes men and trying to help control the situation or protect their cult leader are really in a delusional state of mind to think that the cult leader gives one hoot about if they have a difference of opinion. The cult leader doesn't care. They'll toss them aside and they'll twist it. They'll do the same thing to them as they would a new person coming in and seeing the same problem or seeing a problem. So we got to be careful of that. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where my channel came from, and I wanted people to lose the fear of this refining process that we all seem to be going through, and we're all in this together. So yeah,
I like that, the process. Can I tell you something that's really, I don't know if anybody else in the chat room had this response, but when you first started out on this last bit and talked about how the cult leader, so to speak, basically projects onto you what they're actually guilty of doing. And I was like, wow, this is basically the MO behind politics. No wonder no wonder I've exited. you know, I used to say I don't agree with partisan politics, but they use the same crap, and let's just take like the Democrats and Republicans that we know, at least
yeah,
in the
there
United
is no bipartisanship. They're all
there
one
is no,
party.
they're all
You're
one
you're
party.
totally right.
But the MO that they use is the Democrats will say, well, the Republican over here did this. And meanwhile, it's like all you're doing is taking the masses' eyes, making them look to where you're pointing. Meanwhile, you're pointing fingers, there's three more pointing back at you. Like it's like you're a hypocrite. And and it's done on both sides or all sides.
You must
And
watch that one too, huh?
well, I'm just sitting here thinking because I never, I mean, 2016 was crazy politically. Um, and that watching that whole thing, I was disgusted. And but then what's interesting is we were talking about cult, and I was like, God, this for the first time listening to you talk, I'm like, your date the MO and the tactics that you were discussing, I'm like, that's exactly what our political system did. And then you went into the statement of talking about sovereign beings, and and it just clicked in my head. And forgive me for those others, where all of our processes and the train of thought that we go. For the first time in my life, I was like, wow, the political framework is basically the MO that is done is basically using cult 101 tactic. And by doing that, we have buy-in, or we follow. We get split, we get angry, we get passionate, da 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 da, we point fingers. All the while, we are not refining ourselves to being sovereign, spiritually sovereign beings. We are just going with the chaos that was designed by purpose, I think.
Yeah, we're not being the observer. When we skip being the observer, we're missing out on a huge part of self discovery. Sometimes you need to, if you're in a squabble with somebody, sometimes you need to raise yourself above and look at the squabble, and then you'll be like, this is so meaningless. Or, no, there's something really wrong here in Denmark. And this isn't only in our political system. When we're sitting in a church and we're not able to speak or share different things that go on with us, or different events that go on, or some will escort you out of the church, even though it's listed in the Bible, the gifts of the Spirit, which most of us are coming online to, and then some. The gift of knowledge is like, what I would call what Lenny does. He's very intelligent, and he shares his gifts of knowledge freely. He gives.
Right.
So,
He doesn't.
right. And he does not belittle people for not understanding. He makes
No.
it understandable, and he doesn't humiliate. So when you're using shame, humiliation, or those kind of tactics, or I'm better than you because I know this, well, then there's something that other person knows that you don't. But he doesn't behave that way, but he's got the gift of knowledge. And there, like I said, there's several different gifts. We all have them. And whatever one you seem to be passionate about will be the one you master first. And then you'll go from there. And it's limitless. As long as we are using love. And so that was another reason for starting the channel, is there was so much fear porn going on that in 2012 we all died. So I made a parody about that. And I actually just recently got an email from YouTube that one hit over 10,000 views. I thought it did a while ago, but you know how YouTube works. But anyways, maybe they won't take the views back because they sent me some kind of an award thingy or whatever. But that one was a parody, and some people couldn't handle watching it. But what it was a montage of all the different fear porn that was going on, and we're all still here. So I kind of wanted to hammer it home, like, we don't need any of this, you guys. None of this is true. If you think it or try to create it, well, then that will be your reality. which we're learning through the Mandela effect and all these other things going on. You know, there's so much depth to each of us. And the more of us that come together with respect for one another, with love in our heart, and with, you know, if somebody makes a mistake, we lift each other back up. I, the future is full of hope, beauty, and wonderful things. We have some work to do. Don't get me wrong, this isn't all that we can sit there and pray and not put into action. What you do is you'll pray or you meditate, and then when you're visualizing what your desired result is, you come up with the plan on how are you going to get from point A to point C. And you start planning out everything for part B to accomplish that goal, to make this place a better place for everybody.
Wow. You say a lot of great things. I love the whole thing about being observer. And this has been one of my, recently within the last year, I say this mantra, um, observe, don't absorb. Observe, don't absorb. Observe, don't absorb.
Mm-hmm.
And I particularly, because I am a highly sensitive person, and so it's really important to discipline myself to observe and not get caught up. And once upon a time, I was into that fear porn, and it's like a dog chasing its tail. It's like, oh well, after I watch the next video, I'm really going to know the truth, and I'm going to have the pieces to put the puzzle together. Oh, I'm going to have no. You never have all the pieces, and if anything, it leads to greater confusion. And so it's like an endless cycle. So it's like, wait a minute, I need to stop. I need to center myself here. And it's amazing because the videos that I now get on my suggested playlist on YouTube nowadays have more to do with classical music, music at various hertz, meditation, um, just lectures from like Alan Watts. Like it you can see like a drastic difference in the content that I'm like putting into my head.
Mm-hmm. That makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. But I'm gonna go to this parody video that you did. Memes have made a major popular comeback, and interestingly, recently a friend of mine and I were taking a walk back memory lane, looking at newspaper articles from like the 1800s and the 1700s, and what is it about the parody and the meme that it's so, almost I would say, like liberating, that it has proven the test of time through, well, at least I know hundreds and hundreds of years. When things are published as a meme or a parody, it's funny. I think I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, what is it about the parody and the meme that is food for the soul?
Well, it depends on the personality. It depends on their mood. It depends on, what they're going through at that time, on how they'll take that meme. Because every day, every moment is a now moment. And life can change in a moment. I can testify to that.
Yeah.
So, when life changes at a moment, maybe I don't want to look at something funny at that moment. Now, that doesn't mean I won't come back a week later and enjoy it. Just means that just at that time it's just, not appropriate. So we also, as we are, and this is something huge that I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed it also, Karen, you probably have, is that there are so many empaths now. Even my doctor and the counselor they sent me to, told me that well, the counselor said that I was empathic, and she did what she called a body scan. My doctor sent me right to the right counselor, grief counselor. And then when I go and see him, the one time he said my body's doing a reset. And then this time I had another issue, but my mom had it. And then he said, well, you may ask your mom because she was telling me something I should take because it helped her. And a lot of times as empaths, we pick things up from the people we love, and we carry them, and then they can reflect through us physically. So we'll have the same physical symptoms. We just need to know how to get rid of them. So by
Uh,
him telling me to ask my mom what she's taking, and he's like, if it worked for her, it's gonna work for you. I'm like, he's a very open-minded. I've really lucked out and been blessed in so many ways with the people who are in my real life that understand and are, and it could be possibly that I'm their sanity because they've already been going through it, but they can't really talk about it. Or it'll ruin their business or ruin, their reputation. And then if you're a doctor or whatnot, these things are just not things you want people, that are not all on board, knowing about you. But that's what he told me yesterday was, well, call your mom and try it that way and see if that works. And my doctor, I've never heard a doctor say stuff like that. I mean, he says the most amazing things, and I do believe that it is going to work, and the problem will be solved. But empaths, we pick up on their emotions, we pick up on if they're not feeling well, and it's very difficult when that gift kicks on to, excuse me, to even go out into public. Because when you go out into public and that gift just kicked on, you pick it up from everybody. You know, I mean, I found myself following around people in the grocery store in a good mood. So I could shop, and I just would hope they would go down the aisles I needed them to, because it was overwhelming until I learned how to shield off a majority of that and only take on what I was capable of, and so I could understand it, and then I could get rid of it. And
right.
so, what do you think? You see a lot of people coming into that gift also?
No, I was born that way. In fact, I'm actually more of a clairsentient, and from as being from the earliest memories I have, I can even feel the emotions of, I can remember four or five, the emotions of pets, trees, plants, all of it. Um, it
Wow.
wasn't, it didn't really become a problem or a challenge until on one way, when I went through my studies, and I things became clinical. I intellectualized things, and so it was easy to reason things away. And plus, they teach you a lot about, like, setting boundaries and learning how to balance so that you don't take what you see or what you hear at work, take it home with you. Um, and that that we have an ethical obligation to keep ourselves in check. If you need therapy, go to therapy, because you're doing a disservice to others if you're not present with them when you're talking to them, because you've just become so overwhelmed with even your own personal issues, be it death, grieving, marital stress, or whatever, the million things in life that are stressful. um, and so that was really great. But then when I started doing my digging, um, 2012 and onwards, I have literally been almost reversing, not everything that I've learned, but I don't have 100% buy-in to everything that I was taught. I'm still examining and relooking at what do I keep, what do I don't keep, but that kind of thing. And because I'm no longer relying on what was said and learned in the book and practiced in field placement practicums and shaped through, 2000 post clinical hours and like all of that stuff, it's like I'm almost back to square one, only this time as an adult. And I'm still looking to shield. I'm still looking. But yeah, so let's just say I'm a work in progress, Michelle.
Aren't we all, though? I mean, really, aren't we all?
It's frustrating though, because at one point in time, it seemed like I had it, but then circumstances changed. I moved from the illusion into the reality, and all of a sudden, that means I need to readjust other areas, not just what I know and I'm thinking, but how I shield, how I cope, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an outward extrovert, and for me to not be in the middle of, you know, the parade celebrating the Pittsburgh Penguins bringing home the, Stanley Cup, like that's not me. But I'd rather stay in because I don't want that energy. It's like I'm overwhelmed. Maybe it's because I'm overwhelmed with my drive for what is real, and to use your word, the refining process, that I need a little bit more time before maybe I can be out and successfully. I don't know, but time brings clarity, right?
That's
We'll
right.
see.
And that's what took me
Oh,
so long before I started speaking up. There was just too much fear porn going on. And people, they get paralyzed in fear. They get stagnant. They don't move because they're too afraid. And so, love, when you're doing things in love, there's no fear. So then you'll actually will get out there and do from your point A what you envisioned that will get you to point C. You'll do the part B actions in order to get the desired results that you're looking for in your life. All of it takes work. And the ones that think we can just meditate under a tree and everything will just come,
right.
there's work to be done. And
Although
I'm sorry.
I do that. I meditate under a tree.
No, no,
But
but
I
you
also have a psychologist, a holistic psychologist. I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I actually have an appointment for a shaman healing. So, plus I do a lot
nice.
of my own work.
Oh, I'm
So,
not belittling any of those things.
oh no, I didn't
I'm
think you were. I thought it was funny because a lot of people here with us in the Discord server, they know that I meditate under a tree.
I was thinking
Yeah,
more of Buddha.
I